All right, so welcome to the phase 5 of the self-guided version of the My New Good Life Plus program. So we're going to quickly go through just to make sure there was nothing that you had questions about in what was in phase 5. So we started, excuse me, with the 3 horizons on the canvas. And actually, the more I use that, the more useful I get. And my daughter asked me yesterday for some, she asked me for some consultancy. So I tried to turn it into some coaching. And we use the 3 horizons, and I found them quite useful as a framework. So the more I use them, the more I'm finding them helpful. Any reaction to the comments, questions? So the 3 horizons are basically take care of the present in Horizon 1, while you prepare for the future, developing capabilities for the future in Horizon 2, and actually experiment with little bits of your desired future in Horizon 3. And you can be doing all 3 at the same time. So it's not like you do one after the other. I find that quite a helpful concept. Any comments or reaction to any of that? Sorry, my picture. Ah, yeah, Julia.
Yeah, I found it quite helpful too. And I think it's the focus on the smaller things. So it's the wanting to improve everything at the same time is usually too big of a task. So
Mm,
focusing on little things and also focusing on things that you can do. So it's the allowing yourself and proving to yourself that there are things that can be done. Nikki's nodding because we've been
mm,
talking about this.
mm,
So it's the little things and practicing and actually extracting a little bit from your day to day how you're doing things differently and how that can already make an improvement.
mm. Yeah, nice. Thank you. All right. So I think it's fairly straightforward. I have to say it took me a little while to memorize them, but now I've got them in my brain. They seem to be quite handy, popping out at convenient moments. And it's about holding all 3. It's not about focusing necessarily on one, but it's having all 3 in mind with your client or your daughter, as the case may be. And then we moved into the balanced approach, where basically what Bernard has done is put together 2 polarities.
Mm.
So the polarities are focusing on the future, focusing on the present, and sensing and doing. And so I'm not sure how familiar you are with polarities, but I've come to love polarities over the years. Find them really helpful. Um, are you familiar with what polarities are? Yeah, comfortable with polarities. Okay, terrific. We're going to welcome Sheila in a few seconds, I think. Hello, Sheila. Welcome. Good morning. So we're just quickly running through phase 5.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Rob. Sorry I'm late.
No problem. So when we put these together, sensing and doing, with focusing on the future and the present, we get these 4 quadrants, which are the good ones. But of course, with polarities, you can focus too much on one end of the polarity. And so what Bernard's then done is he's shown you what they can become if you over focus on particular aspects. Ah, Zena, welcome. So we're just quickly running through the phase 5.
Hello,
Um, and
everybody.
so
Sorry for delay.
and so the green is good, the red is too much of something. And yeah, I think I find that quite helpful concept. Just thinking about myself and which of the quadrants I might be working mainly out of. Um, so I'm much more of a doing than a reflecting naturally. So I'm probably over fixation burnout if I don't keep an eye on things. I find it quite helpful just to kind of reflect on whereabouts am I or whereabouts are my clients. Any questions on that? So far, when I've asked, are you familiar with polarities, feeling comfortable with polarities, people have said yes, they are. So I didn't think you are. And all Bernard's done is to put two potentially useful polarities together and combine them. And so I think it's quite a helpful concept. And we talk about what is the role of a coach in this particular area, which when I went through it seemed relatively straightforward. I mean, I found phase 4, I wasn't completely comfortable with phase 4 when I went back and looked at it, which is why I introduced the other exercise that I gave you last week, and I'm updating it, so I'll send you a later version of the tool I introduced last time. And then we move on from the balanced approach to, there is this interesting aspect of the third way. So I find it quite easy to notice when I'm leaning too much into one pole or the other. The third way, which is where you hold both and something new emerges, is because when I train managers, it's quite difficult to get this or demonstrate this, but there is this third way which can emerge when you're holding both polarities together. I don't know whether any of you have that kind of the experience of when holding both, something new emerges out of it. Yeah, so okay, so just as an example, I was just struggling to think of an example, but sometimes if you are when you're in a state of flow, thinking I think the state of flow is effectively the third way.
Yeah, that was what was coming to me. Like if you're really grounded and in flow in the present moment, then it can merge, I think.
Yeah.
It's good. I just have one thing, like maybe try this out, like notice in your conversation when you're having a conversation with someone or with yourself, are you in the past or in the future? Like, are we able to actually hold a conversation with ourselves or somebody else that is purely in the present? Try it out this weekend.
Okay, I'm making a note of that. Okay. It's an interesting challenge.
And I have another one that someone mentioned to me, and it's been really useful. Ask yourself the question, like if you're worrying in the past or about the future, or your mind is just going all over, ask yourself, what's my next thought? And then everything just stops.
Yeah, that's interesting because one of the meditations I do is with Dan Siegler, and part of this meditation, 30-minute meditation, is where you deliberately allow the next thought to arise. So you're just kind of waiting for it. And in the waiting, it's often nothing happens. And so you end up with no thoughts. So it's quite interesting that when you sit there allowing the next thought just to arise, then often you sit there for several seconds with no thought at all. It's quite interesting. Yeah. All right. And so then we moved into the use of the elements and how they can be helped and how they can help develop a balanced approach. And so there were suggestions of how you can use each of the elements for each of the quadrants that Bernard named: mindful presence, reflective foresight, strategic action, and grounded action. And so the elements came back in this phase as well. So any more comments, questions, insights, additional stuff we haven't included? Yes, Gina.
It's probably not a question directly related to your answer to your question, but and apologies if you've mentioned this already. But what I wanted to mention was that I started to look at the recording from the last session when you introduced the model or the work you'd done around applying the grief model. But the recording is not of our session; it's of a previous session.
Oh.
Now, it's very useful because we meet Bernard. I've never met Bernard.
Okay.
And so it's Bernard shows up at a session. It must have been the pilot or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that was great because he offers quite a bit of insight and everything into different things. But yeah, so great. But
Where is the last one?
if you could add the other one, I wouldn't remove the other one because I think that's really useful to hear Bernard talking about some bits.
Well, I think, yeah, I think they're all there. I left
Oh,
them all
maybe,
in.
yeah.
So I think you should have both. So if we go to the first one, first phase, so what I hope is that you'll get in here, this both will be there to look at. So I don't know if you remember this, but this first video is where it was the pilot of the full version. And then I think we had the pilot of the self-guided
Oh, right. I wasn't aware
version.
that they were all there either. So in phase
Yeah.
one, so no. Okay.
Yes, yes. So if you go to recordings, you'll find the previous recordings from the original pilot, and Bernard sat in on the original pilot.
Yeah.
Make
Okay.
sure that it would be done correctly. Okay.
So yeah, if you could just check for us for
I
our
will do.
recording from last time with your
Yes.
model, that would be great.
Okay. What happens to that? Okay. Will do. Anything else come out? Any comments, questions, thoughts?
I haven't worked through five yet, so I just made a start on it. So that's useful steer to what to expect. Thank you. But it looks
Okay.
quite practical. There looks like quite a lot of application of things like the polarity, and that's one of the tools I have resonated with. So for me personally, super useful.
Have you come across Barry Johnson polarity management? Have we talked about that?
Only from you saying it, I've not explored it, but yeah, from
Okay.
when we were first introduced to it. Yeah. I just feel I need to build the confidence to dive into the coaching conversation around it. I feel I can explain it conceptually that there's things, but then I just feel I need to think a bit more about how we're going to have how we're going to have the coaching conversation around it. Yeah.
I must say I found them really useful in the work I've done. So one of the things we talked about the saboteurs, didn't we, at one stage? Did I thought I might have sent you the document I did. So one of the things, I mean, I just think the Harrison report is a fantastic report, but it's not cheap. So what I've done is I've made a link. So when I used to run this management training programs for the European institutions, so for people thinking about going into management positions, and we introduced polarities into this program, but nobody was prepared to pay for the Harrison report. But what I found was that there was a good link between the saboteurs in the positive intelligence program and the Harrison report. And so, for example, so what I did was I made the link, what I think is the link between, for example, the avoider and in the positive intelligence saboteurs, and where that might appear in terms of the Harrison report. So, for example, so if you have the pleaser saboteur, then in the Harrison report, you probably end up with high helpful, low assertive. And so then
Yes.
what I've done is so this is the full Harrison report. So it's that there are 9 useful polarities that I think are important in a work context. And so
Yeah.
what I do is I then give examples of how to do the mapping for each of the polarities, just as an example. So
Yeah.
this is the Barry Johnson polarity mapping approach. Bernard says that there were some German people who invented it before, but I came across Barry Johnson first. So if this is the approach that you can take to help people better balance their polarities. So what I've done is for each of the polarities, I've done an example mapping.
Okay.
So I don't know if I'm being clear. So what you can do is you can, to find out where you are likely to be out of balance in your polarities, you can look at what your saboteur report tells you, which is free.
Yeah.
And then you can look at, okay, where is that likely to put me in terms of out of balance polarities in the Harrison report? And then once you know that, you can use the polarity mapping tool to deal with
Yeah.
it. Have we spoken about this before?
So not this, I've not seen this before. I haven't attended every session, but you shared with us the template for the mapping. So I've got that, but it's blank. So I don't think I've seen an example of it being
Okay.
used. So that I don't remember.
Okay. So let me
Yeah.
just quickly take you through with an easy example. So this, if you have the pleaser saboteur, you'll probably find that you are high helpful, low assertive. And so if you're working with a client who has a pleaser saboteur and turns out to have high helpful, low assertive, then what you tend to do is then you say, okay, well, let's look at this. And so you go to the greater purpose first. So if you were able to balance your assertiveness and your helpfulness, what would you get that's good? So greater purpose, mutual help, both mine and the other's needs are met, win-win solutions. And then you can look at the bottom. What do you want to avoid? Well, I want to avoid becoming self-sacrificing, which is doing too much help. I'm sacrificing my own needs for others, or flipping the other and dominating. Right at the bottom. Is that making sense?
Yeah.
And so then you say, because a person is helpful, naturally helpful, you start with what's good or useful about being helpful. Because they like being helpful, they were able to tell you all the good things about being helpful. So I'm perceived as a good person, more likely to be liked, accepted. I'm likely to avoid conflict. So notice I have a bit of a please going on, and partly it's to avoid conflict. And then you say to them, okay, tell me all the bad things about being over assertive. And so you move diagonally down, since this is how Barry Johnson does it anyway. And they know all about the bad things about being assertive. So I become dominating, which can lead to damaging relationships. Other people are less likely to support me getting my needs met. So people who tend to lean towards helpful will be able to tell you very easily the good things about being helpful and the bad things about being assertive. And once you've acknowledged those, then they feel comfortable to start to talk about, okay, but are there some good aspects to being assertive? And so the person will just say, yeah, actually, I can see when I think about it, being assertive, does have its benefits because I'm more likely to get my own needs met, and people are clear about what I want, and this can help me build trust. So they'll say those sorts of things. And then you say, oh, that's very good. And are there any potentially bad things about being too helpful? And they'll go, oh God, yeah. My needs are so are the bad things about being too, my needs are not met. Yeah. And I take on the burden of meeting everybody else's needs. So I get overwhelmed with other people trying to satisfy other people's needs. And so people then start to see that there are pros and cons of being too helpful and too assertive, and vice versa. Being too little assertive and too little helpful. So they begin to see that both sides are useful, and you need to balance them.
Yeah.
And,
Thanks,
and
Rob.
then
Yeah.
and then you start, and then you, because they want to build their assertiveness, because that's the side they lean away from, then you can start to say, okay, what actions could help you support you be just a little bit more assertive? And so you start introducing some safe to fail experiments where they could just try out being just a little bit more assertive, so they can see what happens when they become a little bit more assertive. And actually, normally they'll find that some good stuff starts to happen.
Mm.
And because they'll be nervous about becoming over assertive, you can build in some kind of check to make sure you don't start becoming too assertive. And so you talk to the person about, okay, how would you know if you're starting to become too assertive? And so they would say, okay, well, the relationship might be the other person suddenly stops talking, looks a bit surprised. Maybe you feel the relationship's not going so well. And so you can build in early warning signs to avoid ever overdoing assertiveness. Because a person who leans towards helpful will worry that they'll become too assertive, so that they know, so this gives them an early warning sign if they start to become too assertive.
This has just reminded me of a very recent coaching conversation I had with a client around the strength scope psychometric. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but they'd done this psychometric, and it brings out your top 7 strengths and the like. And the coaching conversation around that's quite interesting, because it's about what shows up and where you can overplay your strengths and the impact of that. But what came out was, which the client discovered for themselves, is that they've got a bit of a polarity, if you like. It's very similar to collaborative versus leading. So in their sort of management role, they have this sort of which do you do and when, because she struggles with that. So a little bit, I suppose, the assertiveness bit comes through when she's leading, that can sometimes override the collaborative approach that she wants to take. And so I thought it was just quite an interesting discovery. And I suppose the third way, because what we do in this context is it's which of your other strengths can you dial up to support you in that situation.
Yeah. So talking about the authoritative collaborative
sounds
like what you were talking about. So a person tends to dial up the authoritative but
there it is
reduce the
there.
collaborative.
Yes.
So it's in here.
Oh, look.
And so if they become authoritarian in the top left. And the interesting thing with the Harrison report is that if, for example, you're high helpful, low assertive, the fuzzy thing in the top left hand is dominating. So what can happen if you're high on the horizontal axis, in terms of times of stress, you can suddenly flip. So your behavior can suddenly flip from self-sacrificing to dominating. And so this is, sometimes people, the sweetest people suddenly become devils because they've just reached their, they've had enough, and no more Mr. Nice Guy. Now you're getting it, and their behavior will suddenly flip. So it's quite useful in terms of helping people identify when they have flip behaviors too. But what I'll do is I'll send you this document so you can have a look at it, and if you have any questions on it.
Can I just say one thing? I think one would need to tread very gently. I think that non-assertive would come as a massive surprise to leaders, shall we say, who are super helpful, and that's why they got to that position in the first place. So there must be some assertivity there. So, but going along with this model, I think I would, do what you say, what's good, what's bad, and all of that, but let them come up with a word themselves and use that word to bridge the gap. I think it would be very heavy hitting to go in with the word not assertive, if you understand what I mean. Yeah.
Okay.
And people don't appreciate that too much.
Okay. Well, I'm used to debriefing the Harrison report, so I'm kind of stuck with the terminology, and I've never had a problem with hundreds of managers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one-on-one, it's always better to use the words they use themselves, if you understand what I mean. unless you say, can I suggest something?
Depends where you are in your relationship, definitely. Yeah. Probably not session 1, but
Okay, so I'm looking at the time and I need to finish fairly soon. I'll sort out the recording, send you the link to the document. You know, if you need another session at some stage to discuss something in particular, we can always do that. Otherwise, you know, we'll have the community sessions where we can perhaps explore certain topics more. I'm working on answering all the questions that came up in the session yesterday. So there'll be something coming next week. And if you have suggestions for what we do in future community sessions, just let me know. Did you find it the format about right yesterday? We tried to stick to an hour. It was a bit of a squeeze, but I think an hour is probably doable for people.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you find it useful, Rob, yesterday?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, got some interesting feedback. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So
right. Is this the end, Rob? Are you saying this is it?
the start of a new beginning.
Help me with this ending, please.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily an end, but I mean, I think it's kind of we're coming to the end of the My New Good Life Plus program, at least the current version. I'm busily revising it in line with the new version of the My New Good Life program. The new version of the My New Good Life program. Are you in Sheila? I'm losing track. Are you in the new My New Good Life? The pilot? No, I don't think. Anyway, so the pilot of the My New Good Life program I mentioned yesterday is going, I think, quite well. And so what we're doing is we're reviewing the My New Good Life Plus program to knock out some of the wrinkles from this version and to bring it into line with the new structure of the My New Good Life Thriving Disruption, which will be the new My New Good Life program.
Okay.
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 All right. Julia, are you saying goodbye or you've got a question?
I've got a question.
Okay.
I thought originally that I had raised an interest to do the My New Good Life, but somehow I missed the start, I think, of the new version. Is there still an opportunity to join?
Yes, if you see the recording yesterday, I said if you fancy joining the second half after the summer, you're
After
very
the summer,
welcome.
so it was the 5 weeks before the summer and the 5 weeks after. I do remember now. Okay, yes, that would be wonderful.
I think are you in the program? Are you in Sutra?
In Sutra, I think I am,
Okay.
but I haven't been to any live sessions.
Okay. Well, you just have to go in there, catch up. Then
Yeah.
they're not really too onerous. I think you could knock out one in an hour or so a week, hour or two,
Okay.
maybe. I mean, you
So,
could.
Rob, is this a third thing? Because obviously I've done the first program, then this one, and then is there another one? I've lost.
Well, okay. So there are one of the things okay, so we started off with the My New Good Life program, which is the one you followed.
Yeah.
Because it was so time consuming and I couldn't imagine any normal person ever doing it. It had to be sort of a coach thing. I wanted a version which busy working people could do. So we started calling it My New
Now
Good
you
Life.
tell us.
My New Good Life Light. You know, I was a bit over enthusiastic with the first version I designed. So I decided I'd go ahead and I'd create a new version, which is the My New Good Life Light. And that will become the new My New Good Life, because what we're discovering is that coaches prefer it because it's so much easier to follow.
Okay.
So old My New Good Life is replaced by the new My New Good Life, which I've called at one stage My New Good Life Light, and then I called it My New Good Life Thriving in Disruption. And so that will be the what we do from going forward. And so from August, from the autumn, everybody will follow the new version of the My New Good Life program, whether they're coaches or non-coaches. And then for coaches, and that will focus the coaches purely on the coach, say an individual. And then for coaches who want to go further and look at the My New Good Life in terms of how can I apply this in my coaching, training, consulting, OD work, it'll be the My New Good Life Plus, and that will then follow the same structure as the My New Good Life program. And I hope to make it a little bit easier to follow and more engaging.
So what was the program Julia was asking about?
I think Julia was asking about the My New Good Life, the new version of the My New Good Life program, which is the My New Good Life. So actually, I've just got this, the first slide I found. You've probably seen this. This is the new version of the My New Good Life program. So we go through, we take stock, the now, we go for envisage direction, regulate self, dealing with the mutiny that's happening in the bow of the ship, exploring identity, looking at the external world, but the close-in external world, my close system. And then we come back out to look at museum and cellar. And then we look at the broader world, the global threats, and then look at what could be mine to do given my gifts and essence and what's happening in the world. And then we talk about, okay, we come to the three horizons. What do I need to do, and how do I maintain my balance as I move towards my new good life? So that's what we're going through now. We've done the first 5 weeks in the pilot, and we'll continue in September. And if you haven't been in part of the pilot, but you want to experience the last 5 weeks, you could join the pilot, and you just have to work through the first 5 weeks over the summer. And now I notice I really have to go.
Yeah.
If you have any more questions, I'm very happy.
I wanted to ask you that you mentioned yesterday as well that you are working with a coaching association from September or something, that is the course. Which course is that? And if it's we can also participate, or it's a different thing, or it's the same what we already did, so it doesn't have any kind of meaning to participate.
From September or beginning of October, the Universal Coaching Alliance, UCA, will be running the new version of the My New Good Life program for its members and others. So that will be the slightly updated version of what we're currently piloting. And they're offering hours, and then after that, we're going for accreditation of the My New Good Life Plus program, so that people can get accredited with the UCA in the program.
Okay.
So the first program, My New Good Life, gets coaching hours similar to the EMCC's continuous professional development.
Yeah.
They call it something slightly different. Their coaches who go through that get coaching hours, as I think you did for the EMCC.
Yeah.
And then, but we're thinking about a more formal accreditation or at least a more formal potential options for accreditation of the My New Good Life Plus program.
Yeah.
Okay. And depending on what level you get to, you can kind of run it on your own or run it on behalf of the New Good Life. So we're looking at different, depending on how far you go with it, what you could do with it.
Okay. So definitely there is a motive to participate actually as a coach there. Okay.
Yeah. So if you need more information on that, I'll send you the link.
Okay. If you can send us all the things what we can do in like next steps in an email, that would be wonderful.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Sorry, I have a
Okay.
structured brain, and
Same.
I need.
Yes.
All right, I'll do that. I'll send you an email with all that information. If you
Thank
think I
you.
miss anything, tell me, and I'll
Okay.
send you more. All right.
You better
Thank you
go,
so
Rob. You
much.
better go.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Many thanks.
Bye,
Love to
ladies.
see you all.
Yeah.
Bye.
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 Bye.